Okay, Rachel's here. So you guys are.
All right, we've got a full house tonight.
Okay, now you're good.
Full house, how wonderful. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the. Let me pull up all of my stuff. Normally, I'm far ahead and ready. Here we go. Okay, well, welcome everyone to the Village of New Paltz Planning Board meeting for November 16th. It's a little after 7 p.m. We have a full agenda this evening. We have administrative business, including the approval of minutes for 2 previous meetings, updates from the Village Board, Ulster County Planning Board, and Environmental Planning Board. We have a public hearing for PB 2014. We have application reviews for PB 2112, PB 2014, and we also have PB 2115 and 2116 as application reviews. We also have a guest speaker tonight, Mr. Tom Olson from the Historic Preservation Committee, and he's going to be giving us a brief summary of some things. But because we had opened up the meeting a little bit late, we're going to start with the administrative business and then go right to the public hearing, followed by Mr. Olson. So as far as administrative business, the first thing we need to do is to approve the minutes from October 19th and November the 2nd. We were not able to have those minutes approved the last time, as we did not have a sufficient number of people who had attended those meetings available to approve them. So if you would please, does anybody have any questions about the October 19th meeting minutes? Any edits, any suggestions that we need to follow through on?
Zach and Dennis were the ones at that meeting, by the way. So you guys are the ones that have to second and stuff to approve these ones.
So,
Right, I reviewed them.
okay.
They look okay to me as well.
All right. So with that in mind, I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes for October 19th.
So motion,
Second, please.
I second.
All in favor?
aye.
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 Have approved the minutes for the October 19th meeting. Turning then to the November 2nd meeting. Alana, who all was here for that meeting?
Let me check. Thought you guys were all there.
I thought Tom Peterson was not here.
No, I was here.
You were? Okay.
Yeah.
I think
So-
Dennis was absent because he was
That's right.
a poll worker. So
Poll worker, that's right. So with that in mind, I would like to get a motion to approve the minutes from the November 2nd meeting of the Planning Board.
So motion.
And a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the meeting minutes from the November 2nd meeting of the Planning Board have been approved. Let's moving now to the updates from the Village Board, Ulster County Planning Board, or Environmental Planning Board. Do we have any update?
I think Bill Murray doesn't seem to be here right now.
Okay. All right, then we're going to move past that. It's now time we're going to open the public comments. So I need a motion, please, to open the public comments.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to hold open these public comments. Alana, do you have any anyone who's responded for the public comments yet?
Yes.
No, I haven't gotten anything in writing, and I'm not seeing anyone here right now, but like you said, we can keep it open for a little bit.
We'll hold this open till the end of the meeting so that we can gather any public comments that maybe have not come in yet across
Okay.
the meeting or the from text or email. So moving on then, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to conduct a public hearing for PB 2014-85 North Chestnut. I need a motion, please, to open the public hearing.
So moved.
A second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, the motion is carried. The public hearing is now open. All who are present to speak to before the board on the application PB 2014, please come forward. Alana, is there anyone that has contacted you to speak on the public hearing?
No,
Is there anyone present who wants to speak to the public hearing? Hearing none, I would like a motion then to close the public hearing.
So motion.
And I need a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the motion has carried and the public hearing for PB 2014 is closed. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to have a few minutes of comments and remarks by Mr. Tom Olson, who chairs the Historic Preservation Committee. So Tom, why don't you step forward and give us a little view of what you're going to discuss with us and a little preview, and then let's move right on into it.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, John. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen if I could, please. And let's just see. There we are. I'm going to just share with you the document that I hope is now nice and visible. Is there anything I can do to adjust the size of this for you?
Really, no.
We can do it.
All right. So John and everybody, thank you very much. I intend to be quite brief, and then I hope we can have a little discussion, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. What I'd like to do is just kind of take you through this draft memo that I intend to send to the village board. We're quite well along in our thinking about a downtown district, and so I just wanted to overview these points and then show you the map and actually seek some of your ideas and thoughts on both the proposal and the map. So the first thing I would say is that we've been, as I think a lot of you know, on this topic for really more than a decade. We have had in the village a downtown district that is state and national registered since 2009, so over a decade. But really the main thing that is a concern to us is that state and national designation doesn't do anything about local protections. The HPC has no more overview of the downtown than we have of anything else that's not landmarked, because in fact it's not locally landmarked. So legislative intent. What you've got here is a section of Village Code, Article 3, Section 9. And it is laying out the charge of the HPC when it was first formed in 2001. And what you see there is a lot of language about protecting and enhancing and perpetuating the landmarks and the historic districts that we have in the community. There's also an emphasis on outreach and education, which we think we've been doing with more or less success over the last 20 years, just trying to bring issues of preservation to the minds and the eyes of the people in the village and elsewhere. Do we have authority to designate a local district? Yes, we absolutely do. So here I'm referring to Section 920 of Article 3, where it very explicitly says that we may recommend to the Village Board of Trustees the designation of a group of properties as a historic district if we feel that one or more of those properties meet the criteria for a designation of a landmark, and by reason of having those qualities constitute a distinct section of the village. We're quite confident that both of those things are true. We're talking about the downtown core of the community. Any number of properties rise to the level of designation. In fact, some of them are already individually designated. And by the possessing of those qualities, I think everybody understands we do have a distinct section of the village. It's the historic commercial core. So it's pretty clear that we have the authority to do so. We've had encouragement from the village board to do this. We absolutely are committed to an appropriate period of listening and public comment before moving forward. And so where I would like to end up is within a week or two, I would like to send this or a revised version of this memo forward to the village board along with a resolution that they begin the process of hearing public comment on the designation of what would be our second historic district, Huguenot Street obviously being the first. What I say in part 3 here really briefly is that we already have this vetted and understood and accepted core district, which I'll show you in just a second with the map. But there's been a lot of discussion on the HPC and here and on the village board about areas of the village that aren't in that state and national register district that might be vulnerable, that we might be thinking about if we move to a local district. And that's one of the things I would like the planning board's thoughts on, and I'd like to have a conversation about. The last two things in this memo, just to go over them again really quickly, is we would like to change our name to include Design Review Board and actually to lead with that. In the last 20 years, I think there has been a really serious reevaluation of what historic preservation means, and at all levels, national, state, and our own local level, we're very aware that historic preservation shouldn't be an elitist operation, just sort of taking care of rich white people's property. And so we want to make sure that we're accurately describing what we think our function is, which is primarily reviewing designs to make sure that new construction and renovation is done with historic sensitivity. So we're going to be appealing to the village board to make that change. Number 2 is that we're also very aware that if our task grows by adding a second district, we've got to think about ways to move non-consequential projects through the system really quickly so that we're not holding up people unnecessarily. That makes for really angry citizens for good reason. And it also makes for a lot of volunteer work that doesn't necessarily need to happen. So we're actively exploring ways to bake into this change a waiver system so that we can look at projects that we know are going to be okay, that they're going to be historically accurate, and they're not going to cause problems, and just sort of wave them through. Obviously make notes about why we did so, but to make that transparent and easy. And then last of all, our first priority is to get a downtown district established as soon as we can. The longer term goal, or I should say the phase 2 of this goal, is to work with you and the village board to come up with some really basic community-wide design standards so that we're building projects that the community can be happy with in the decades and centuries ahead. But I don't think tonight's the night to focus on that. So with that in mind, I'm just going to switch over to the map. Give me just 1 second to do that. And I'm hoping that you're now seeing a map on your screen. Let's see.
I think your screen might be frozen.
Oh boy, how do you like that? Just when you all right, give me 1 second to try to adjust that. I could just stop sharing and then, oh, I'm sorry, resume share. Is that helping?
It's still frozen for me.
All right, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second and I'll go back to reshare. I'm hoping that fixed it.
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, so I'm just going to zoom a little bit in on this map. Please tell me if that's reasonably legible.
Actually, no.
No. Too small, too large?
Too small.
Okay. Tell me that's helping.
That helps. Yeah.
Okay, so everyone, the black line constitutes the state and national district. It basically goes from Broadhead along North Chestnut into South Chestnut, cuts off just a little bit before Hasbrook, which is to say St. Joe's Church, winds along behind St. Joe's and goes up almost to Prospect on both sides of Main. That's what is on file with the State and National Register. We're really sort of, on the HPC, we're really trying to think about what the best strategy is. On the one hand, that district seems almost without controversy that if it's been designated by state and national experts, then it's historic. The downside as we see it is it leaves the rest of Main Street unprotected. It cuts out, we had asked for Wirtz Avenue. It cuts out a little bit of Chestnut. It misses the pit. It misses some areas that we know are going to be coming up before you and before the village board, big projects coming our way. And so one of the questions I was hoping we could talk about is to get your sense on the planning board of what size district you would be most comfortable with. So just to make sure everybody understands, the black line is what's on file with the state and the US government. The dotted line is what was removed from our original proposal, which we are thinking we would like to put back along with more of the Main Street area and possibly Wirtz Avenue. So John, that's my overview. I think most people on the planning board are familiar with what we've been trying to do. This isn't the first time we've talked, but we're getting to the point where we'd like to write a resolution, put it before the village board, and obviously your support and endorsement is really important to us before we do that. So how about if I open it up to questions or comments?
Thank you, Tom. So just to be clear, this would continue on down Main Street, down to Wirtz Avenue. Does it go farther than that, or is that the end of it?
Well, I think the other thing that we might want to be thinking about is the pit area, which is currently not included. If you, I don't know if you can see my mouse, probably not, but
Right.
where I'm circling, and we know that that area is going to be developed, and I have every confidence that we can probably figure it out informally. But one of the things that we're trying to do is make this formal so that every future iteration of the planning board and the Historic Preservation Commission knows what to do.
Okay. So that will go down Wirtz Avenue to Mohawk and then up to 219 and then
Yes,
back or and then around St. Joe's. Is that correct?
that's our thinking. I mean, that's actually my question, but you know, I think our feeling is we can always grant waivers. We can always go easy on properties that don't particularly contribute to the historic character. But, you know, Wirtz Avenue, as you know better than anybody, John, has some beautiful, beautiful houses on it. And every one of those is vulnerable to demolition. They're vulnerable to exterior changes that may affect the whole street. So I think the feeling on the HPC is let's go bigger and be prepared to back off when it's needed or when it doesn't make sense to use the same standard.
The other aspect that I think is important is that one thing that we frequently tell applicants is that we are not so much a planning board as we are a compliance board. So if we can gain some assistance in the planning and the approval of some of the modifications that are proposed by running them through your committee before they reach us, that could certainly give us the strength and authority to either approve or reject certain modifications so that there is kind of a harmonious feel to the area, as opposed to having outliers become common more so than preserved historic buildings.
Mhm. That's nicely put, John. That's very much in our thinking, as well as this idea that, we're free. The HPC doesn't have the authority to charge a fee, and so we're just free advice. And the hope is that somebody with a home repair project or an extension or some brand new construction would come to us and get some guidance about materials and shapes and setbacks, so that you don't have to do all that work and they're not churning around in the system unsure of what's expected.
Anyone else have any comments?
Tom, I can't quite see it. Does it include Pencil Hill?
It does not. I can zoom in on that. I think, Dennis, give me just a second to make it a little bit bigger. Now, it's interesting you'd raise that, because Pencil Hill has some historic, definitely, unfortunately, most of it is lost in terms of architectural structures. But I think that, Dennis, that probably gives you what you need. The thinking we had was that it would go to the foot of Mohonk, or foot of what Wirtz at Mohonk.
Okay.
Do you see things otherwise?
Well, we know that there's some historic buildings, or there are some buildings on Pencil Hill that have historic value, and it is a unique row. It's short but unique. By the way, Tom, I know you've done this for years and years. You've done a terrific job, and you really kept at it. So anything we can do, me personally, I'm more than happy to do it. But I would think about taking a look at the Pencil Hill. And it's, I run it. I run up Pencil Hill, and it's, as I say, it's unique. Particularly, you get to the top, and it looks over the rail trail, which is now a big deal. The rail trail with the Sojourner Truth Park.
Did you say you run up the hill?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, good for you. Yeah, that's a steep little hill right there.
Well,
as I'm sure you feel.
You don't get me into my running, but I started about 6 months ago, but it gives you good, a good speed work, because there's not a lot of hills where I run, but that's a good hill. And then I run up and I go across 32, make a left and run down Elting, and Elting's a beautiful street.
Yeah.
There's some really nice houses there.
Yeah.
What would be the possibility of looking at, not to reach too far out, but what would be the possibility of looking at the Elting area with those two streets? Because there are some historically significant buildings in those areas, and it would be there's one renovation that's been going on for well over a year, and they've done a phenomenal job of returning it to what looks like a very accurate historical rendering of the building. But I would personally, not professionally, not as the chair of the board, but I would personally like to see that area considered, if nothing else.
Yeah, that John, did you see the gutters?
Yeah, beautiful copper
gutters. I haven't seen them.
Yeah, they're doing a first-class job on that. Absolutely. I made notes on both of those. I mean, I think there's an argument to be made. I guess we maybe some of this depends on the waiver system, right? Somebody living in a raised ranch next to a historic house should not be held to an impossible standard. And I think we understand that, but we've got to make sure that that's understood for every future preservation commission and every future planning
Right,
board.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to weigh in?
Just
Yeah,
one, go ahead.
I just want to say I support extending the boundaries of the already defined historic district by a little, especially up Main Street. I think it's going to be hard to try to capture every historically important neighborhood or building with this, but what's key to me, at least when I look at this, is that we get the main corridors of Main Street and North Chestnut, South Chestnut. So I think that this map accomplishes that.
Thanks, Zach. Noted. Yeah.
Can you show us the northern end of the proposed extension?
Absolutely. Let me just. So it currently goes up to Broadhead, which means that it's not capturing the new business district. There's going to be a lot of development up that way. You're discussing one such proposal tonight, and I noticed that the lease is up on the lawnmower repair. I guess they've already moved out, and that begins to look like possibly moving toward some demolition and development there.
Is Huguenot Street a separate historic district? Is that why it's not part of this?
Yes, correct. That's already been, that district was actually established even before the commission. I don't even know how old that is, but definitely for the last 20 years, it's already operated according to the principles that we're talking about. I was going to say on the question of the northern boundary, I mean, one thing we can be thinking about is whatever is not in that core that Zach was just talking about, the main axis of Main and Chestnut. Maybe we should be thinking about appropriate village-wide design standards so that we know what we're talking about in the NBR. We know what we're talking about, say, on, north on Millbrook or, any of the other streets that wouldn't be captured by this. Because, a lot of the village lives on those streets. I live on one of those streets, and I would like to see some level of protection because we haven't always had that on my street.
Design standards are something that I think the Board of Trustees is going to want to weigh in on, but I certainly agree that we should have some design standards specifically for this area, but as possibly applies to the community as a whole. That's something that the Board of Trustees would certainly want to weigh in on. I know that the design standards vary according to the designation. The NBR is different than B1, is
That's
different
right.
from R1.
Yeah.
So having some sort of unified set of standards would be great. But I think that's something that the Board of Trustees is definitely going to want to weigh in on.
Mm-hmm.
Any
Rachel,
further questions for Tom? Okay, well, Tom, I don't want to cut you short. We could talk about this for a long time, but unfortunately we have some guests.
Yeah, you've got a long agenda and I appreciate the time. John, it would be of great help to us if we could have just the most basic memo expressing the planning board's support. If you want to get into the details of what you support or what you would encourage, that might help too. But could I ask you all to think about crafting that in the next day or so, or I don't want to make it the next day thing, but maybe talk about it tonight. And if we could have something in a week, I would like to be able to send that to the village board along with our resolution.
I think that's a good idea. We're gonna have to see how far along this meeting goes, because we don't want to hold up the applicants. But I agree that that would be something good to have. So let us filter through the applications, and as we come to the end,
Okay.
perhaps we can take some comments, or we can feed them all separately into Alana, who can then filter them out, run them past our attorney, and then we can put something together.
Be great. Much appreciated.
Tom, thank you for your time. We do appreciate it.
Thank you all for
Thanks
the
a lot,
work you
Tom.
do. Yeah, thank you very much for the support and the ideas, and especially for the work you do, because I know it's a lot. Have a great meeting.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was pretty enlightening, and we'll look at something as we move forward. But let's go ahead and get started here. The first thing that we need to do is we need to get on to our application reviews. We have our first application review, PB 2112. It's 1 through 3 Henry W. Du Bois Avenue. It's an application for a special use permit to open a restaurant in an existing multi-use building. Applicant is seeking a waiver of site plan requirements pursuant to 212-39A2, which provides, except as limited to 212-38 above, the application for special use permit shall contain the same information as required for site plan review by the subsection noted. Unless waived by the planning board, no application can be considered as complete until such a time as the building inspector receives all the required information and documentation. It is a type 2 action. General municipal law referral. The property is located within 500 feet of New York State Route 32, but is exempt from referral under an agreement with the Ulster County Planning Board as a reuse or reoccupancy of existing structures, provided the following: increase in parking is not required by local statute. Channelized access to Cedar County Road exists or is proposed, and new site lighting utilizes full cutoff luminaries and does not exceed the IEA lighting levels, and there will be a public hearing required. So starting here, and Mr. Leaguer, are you here?
Yes, I am here.
Great. It is there's no real standard for the planning board to exercise the waiver of a site plan requirement. We can waive individual points within that, and there is quite a list of different items. So the first question that I would like to propose here is, can you tell us why you want to ask us to waive all of the requirements of a site plan?
Sure. I don't actually want to waive all the requirements of the site plan. I think the process here of reviewing all of these things is an important process. And what I'm suggesting is that this letter that I've submitted can be used in lieu of a site plan and still allow a review of all of these items. And I think that the one item that was brought up last time is the sign. And there will be a new sign, but other than that, there's nothing new or changing. So there doesn't, in my opinion, a site plan showing lots of existing conditions with no changes is an awful lot of money to spend for something that doesn't really show anything.
Okay. So that is the reasoning that he has. Did everyone get a chance to look at the different items that are requested? That was actually a
Yes.
question. Okay. First thing that we had was a letter from the applicant, in which they described the request and then gave a list of the different items that he believes that he should not, that he should be granted a waiver of those. Did everyone get a chance to look at that?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not actually asking for a waiver. I'm just asking that the letter be considered in lieu of a site plan, because all of the items that need to be addressed on a site plan are addressed on the letter instead. So I'm not really asking for a waiver. A waiver of the requirement to sit. I'm asking for a waiver of the requirement to submit a site plan and instead, in lieu of a site plan, submit this letter.
Well,
so the 16 items, I'm still addressing them.
see, we can't waive the requirement to complete a site plan. And we would have to go through each of these and determine whether or not we felt that they were significant enough to require that they be part of a site plan. And that's part of the issue here, is that the site plan itself, or even the SUP, the site plan has to be presented. And you're asking us to go through these and waive those different requirements. Special use permit also requires that the same information is to be used. It's very, very similar to a site plan. So in that respect, I guess we would also be, you're also asking for us to waive each of these requirements for the special use permit. So that's a question that I think the board needs to determine. If first, generally, do they agree that we should do that? And then if they do, then we can go specifically through each and in every one of these to determine what needs to be and what does not need to be according to the letter that was presented.
Got it.
John, I had a question. Is the site plan, is that required to be prepared by an engineer or architect, or could the applicant just submit a hand-drawn, a site plan that is not necessarily perfectly to scale, but shows all the relevant details?
That's a very good question. And given that Mr. Leaguer's previous life, he was an engineer, could prepare these things without the stamp of a professional engineer, and it would be acceptable. And I actually spoke with Corey earlier today, who said that would be an acceptable way to do it. Also, I don't know when the last time that this site plan for this particular location was updated. I just don't know. And that would be something that we probably need to know as well. When was the last time a site plan was prepared for this specific space?
I did review that with the building department, Corey, and there's nothing in the file that he could find. And so there's no information about any previous site plans.
Wow.
But I think if we go through the items, even if we just do it quickly, you'll see that pretty much nothing really applies because we're not creating anything.
That's true. And while even though you're not creating something, if there is no existing site plan on record, because this decision goes with the property, it doesn't go with the individual. I personally am in favor of having a site plan simply because we don't have one on file, and we don't need to have the Corey's okay. It is acceptable to the building department that they don't have the professional stamp on it. But if we had the other pieces of the site plan that were done, that would be something that we need for our records. However, we're going to listen to the rest of the board and see what their see what their thoughts are on this. So let's look then. The items in 212-23A1 are typically what are on a site plan. And to go through there, he's asking for a waiver on the following. Location of all existing water courses, wooded areas, easements, right-of-ways, streets, roads, highways, railroads, streams, buildings, structures, or any other feature directly or properly on the property or beyond the property if such feature has an effect on the use of said property. The proposed use is solely inside an existing building, and therefore none of the features listed has an effect on the use of said property. The next one, and board members, please feel free to jump in if you have questions or if you have reasoning on this. Location, use, and ground area of each proposed building, structure, or any other land use. No proposed building structures or any other proposed land uses associated with this action. The building and land use are existing and no changes to the property are proposed or needed. Then again, we could always make this conditional that if there were any changes that were made according to that we would need a site plan before we could approve of any of the changes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say quickly about both A and B. My feeling is if we don't know what the existing site looks like or what the other what the current use of it is, then it's hard to evaluate the new use, even if it is purely internal to the building. So I mean, I understand the reasoning here, but I think it would be helpful to have this information in front of us.
Any other members of the board that want to weigh on this? Dennis? Tom?
Well, I have to agree with Zach. I think without, and I understand, I'm trying to really keep any applicant from spending a lot of money and doing unnecessary things, but I think Zach has a good point. Without seeing something, it's a little difficult. You don't necessarily, as you say, John, have to go and have it professionally done. So I think for my sake, I would like to at least see something a little more concrete so that we can see what it is now and what it's going to be. Again, keep it to a minimum, but we should have something. It's too hard to visualize it.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, at our last meeting, we said it would be possible to submit a site plan, but to waive certain, like some of the certain items that needed to be presented on it. Is that right?
That's the objective, yes.
So I'm just wondering if, I mean, if we could get a site plan, but, since things like, the proposed entrances and exits to public rights of way, if there are certain things that could be left off of it, it could just be, something that was drawn up by the applicant.
Yeah, I'm
Basically
happy to make
at
a
a-
drawing that is like I mean, I don't have a CAD program, so I can't do anything really big. I could do an 8.5 by 11 drawing, which hopefully will show these things. But just to clarify, I can show existing conditions, and those are actually the proposed conditions also. There's no changes to anything.
Right.
And then I guess the other thing is, so there is the matter of the sign though, right? Which will have to be addressed by the board at some point, won't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's on page 3 of the letter under item M.
Right. Following that, the architectural drawings, including floor plans and elevations, because we don't have anything on record which shows what they are, I really feel it would be helpful if we had the site plan that was drawn up so that we can see the elevation, so that we can understand the building, so that we can have that as part of the record of the building, because as I said, a lot of this goes with the property and not with the individual, so that if you were to sell it, we at least have a document which states that this is the condition status of the building and property at this point in time, which I believe is important, given that we don't have anything now even to go back and review, as we just don't.
I understand that. I wouldn't be able to draw an architectural drawing of the building. But I could take pictures of the elevations, which would be even better because it's exactly what's there.
We understand that. But part of the purpose of the site plan is to have a documented record of the physical layout of the property and of the buildings on that property, which I think are important. And
Yeah, I would include those, but item N, architectural drawings showing elevations, that's like a pretty specialized thing. I couldn't do that, but I could take pictures of the elevations along with the plan. I can draw a plan, that's not hard, but I can't draw elevations, and it wouldn't represent what's there. Photos would be a much better representation.
I understand. However, again, as I try to point out to people, and it's not trying to be difficult, but we are a compliance board, and we have to follow what is given to us, which says this is compliance. And while photographs may be much better, unfortunately, that's not what is stated as an acceptable substitute, and that's something that we're going to need to discuss with the building inspector. So this kind of leaves us in a difficult position, because we don't want to place something that's terribly onerous on you, and we want to move this application through as quickly as possible, so that we can get to a yes, so that you can continue to and move forward with your plans. However, the sense of the board that I'm getting is that we're going to ask for a site plan, and we need to have these things on there. However, it may be an item, it may be something that in discussions with the planning board, that not just the planning board, but with the building department, that we see what items there are required and necessary. And I think that, based upon speaking with the building inspector earlier, he said that he would like to see the things that are posed here, but without a professional stamp, so that it doesn't all have to be done with a CAD program to a level of detail that you could not produce yourself. So that's kind of where we are with it, or at least that's where I am with it. And if anyone feels differently, please feel free to voice your opinion. But my belief is that we need to have the site plan, and we can't waive all of those items on there, but we are willing to take these as a drawing that you can produce without the engineering stamp on it, so that the items to scale and to the degree that it is going to require a professional engineer to produce, we understand that's not needed. So kind of leaves us in a difficult position. And are there any opinions within the board that we want to put forward here?
I mean, I feel the same way as you, John, but I'm maybe not so strict about the architectural drawings of the elevations. I would be happy with a photo or a sketch showing the changes in the signage. And lighting, I also think that the lighting, any changes to the lighting is relevant. But yeah, other than that.
Okay, so
I'm gonna have to go.
okay,
But I feel like, why not a Google Earth photo,
okay,
and he's not changing the building any. I would be satisfied with
okay,
that.
very good.
Thank-
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's look then as best we can here and kind of go through these specific items here independently here. So we're willing to give ground on the elevations. We do need to go ahead and have a drawing as much to scale as possible. The location of the signs, we certainly need to have that on the site plan as well. We're willing to give on item N, the architectural drawings. The short form EIFs have been completed and submitted. And we're not requesting any further information. So if you can produce for us a drawing along with this letter, noting that these conditions exist, I think that we're willing to accept that, and we do not need to have the stamp on it, but we do need to have the basics of a site plan provided for us so that we can have that as a historic record and so that we can use that as part of the decisions that we're going to make and move forward on.
That's perfectly acceptable to me. I understand.
Okay.
And Zach, just address your concern about lighting. There's no lighting proposed. Everything's fine there. The lighting's good. We're just putting a restaurant inside. And in signage, there's a sign posted out front with signs on it, and we're just going to add another sign exactly like the signs that are there, which I say is 12-inch by 42-inch. It'll just say the name.
Great.
Okay.
So,
So, okay, given we've reached a decision here and an agreement with you, I would like to see when we can set a public hearing then. Alana, what's the next possible date that they could set a public hearing?
So if you were to set I don't know how long it'll take Phil to do the drawings and stuff like that, because if we set a public hearing for December 7th, we would want the drawings to be available to the public for as long a period of time as possible. So December 7th would be the first meeting in December, and then the second one is the 21st. So it could be either one of those days.
Phil, do you think that you can have everything available to Alana quickly enough that we can get everything posted, public hearing notices sent out?
yeah, this is not hard stuff to do if I can do it myself.
Okay,
Yeah.
so why don't we go ahead and I'd like a motion to set the public hearing for PB 2112 for December 7th.
So motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So we have it in set for the 7th. Please get in touch with Alana as quickly as possible so that we can help you move this forward, okay?
Okay, yeah.
Very
Thank
good.
you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, have a good night.
You-
So that brings up the next item, which is PB 2014 85 North Chestnut Street. Mr. Willingham and Mr. Serda are here. Everyone knows what we have done so far, including the variances that the CBA approved. We've gone through a lot of the material regarding traffic, moving the waste facility to various locations. And what we need to do now is we need to look at a couple of things. One of them we need to do is to review the comments received from the New Paltz Fire Department, and we received some information from Mr. Willingham. Was it today or was it yesterday late? Where that had, I think it was today, that has been resolved. Then we need to review the new plan of materials for conformance with the Ulster County Planning Board report and all remaining site plan issues, including traffic concerns. With respect to signing details, the size and location of business signs are provided, but really there are no other details about the signs, size of lettering, color scheme, if lighting is proposed. And then for comparison, zero place sign plan is a good example. And I believe that that was made available to us. So let's move forward on that. So first, let's move to the comments from the New Paltz Fire Department. Let me see if I can find that. Andy, do you have that handy?
Yes.
I can probably find it in here.
Okay, yeah, I have it here.
Okay, can you pop that on the screen then, rather than me trying to find it here? The New Paltz Fire Department essentially said that turning radiuses weren't good. There was a comment, I believe, also about for the small trucks and the fire trucks entrances and exits. And can you increase that a little bit here?
Yeah, I'm not sure zoomed into an email. Let's see.
All right.
Maybe not.
Alana, did you place that the email in their file?
I did it because Andy had sent it to the entire planning board. So I just assumed everyone would have it in their inboxes.
All right, I'm gonna try something different here.
Is this what you sent the 11:20 this morning?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I'm reading it now. I mean, I got it. So looks like you addressed all the issues. There's 4 of us.
How's that?
That's it.
Okay, so do you want me to go through it, John?
Okay, there we go. Thank you. So these are the comments from the fire department. Did not see an FTC fire department connection location on the building for us to connect to. Turning radius are larger radios. Radiuses are larger for larger apparatus from North Chestnut into the village parking lot to get into the south and entrance. Okay. On the west side parking lot, there needs to be 17 feet of space for a ladder truck to set up. There's only 16 feet in between the curb and the parking spots. Also, 2 trees planted along the parking lot, a maple and birch tree that once fully grown will hinder the turning radius through the south side of the parking lot. So you then received this and you worked with the fire department and you want to show what your resolutions were on this that were
Yeah,
sent
sure.
to the fire department.
So I spoke with Corey this morning, and then, so the fire department connections is that where they can hook up the hose when they show up. So that's that, it's just like a spigot for their hose that we're gonna put on the side of the building on the north. So that was fine. Corey was fine with that. The radius, so they want it, they always want to try to maneuver all their trucks throughout the site. They can get their smaller 30-foot truck through the site. The bigger truck, they're gonna have to pull in this way. And he was fine. Corey was fine with that. He understood that that big truck is hard to get on a lot of sites. The trees. So there was a tree. Let's see if we can get the landscape plan up. So they're concerned about the trees, these two trees here. He was less concerned knowing that the smaller truck was going to come through. But this tree is kind of an upright clump tree, and it's not a wide branching tree, so he was fine with that. And I told him that we would change this maple to something that's more upright.
Okay. And did he provide you with anything written that says it's okay?
I didn't get anything back. I emailed him and said that this is what we discussed. And I didn't get a response. That was today. But it was, so no, he didn't reply, but it was pretty straightforward for us.
Okay.
Oh, and then the 17 feet, he needs that to put the outriggers on the truck. So we're gonna give him that for the west entrance, the west driveway. We're gonna make it 17.
And what was that relating to the?
That was related to when the big truck is sitting here, it needs like it needs set up so that its big ladders can get set up to go up into the building. So this width right here, we wanted an extra foot.
Okay. All right. So here's what we're going to need then. You have details on the sign, the size, the lettering, the color scheme, and lighting.
Yes. So Rick Golden was looking for a little more detail. We kept them really kind of blank because we just know that whoever the tenants are, we're gonna probably change it. But we did add some details similar to what Zero Place did. They're small signs, a small 2.5 by 3 foot sign for each of the 4 businesses, and that's all the signage we're proposing. And we called out dark lettering on a light background, and then no lighting. The only lighting will be from the soffit above. So we did, yeah.
Okay, so that takes care of the sign and lighting, the lettering and color scheme. Information on the lettering is something that I know that the attorney was looking for.
Yeah, we call out 6-inch letters.
Okay, so can you make sure that we have something written on that responds to those specific questions, please?
Written on the plan or on?
Is it on the plan? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually. Oh, I didn't explain that. That drawing that we were just looking at is the elevation drawing that will be part of the set.
Okay.
That will be approved. Hopefully.
Okay. So then we've taken care of that, which leads us now to members of the board. Is there any other information that you feel needs to be stated here?
No, I'm comfortable with all those changes. Signage looks good.
Yeah, I'm fine. I looked at it closely. Everything looks very good.
Okay,
Looks good to me.
very good. All right, so we've got a couple of items that we need to work on. Proposed access easement over the adjoining site at the south is shown on SP1, but does not contain meets and bounds, which will likely be needed for the easement to be filed with the county. An owner authorization from the adjoining site to the south is needed, and the form of the easement must be reviewed and approved by the board attorneys. We need to review the plans for conformance with the building design standards, the village codes, applicant responses, explain how they believe these items have been satisfied. We've talked about the affordable housing plan. Is acceptable. Resolution requires the payment of a recreation fee, and that is where we are now. So the recreation fees are something we need to discuss. The planning board simply determines a finding of whether recreation fees are necessary or not. We do not assign the fee. That is up to the Board of Trustees, and they have a formula within their guides and within the codes. But our job simply is to create a finding of whether there is a recreation necessary, and if so, can it be met on site, and if so, then where will it be, and if not, then that a fee in lieu of an on-site recreation is necessary, and then that is turned over to the board. So the planning board needs to make a determination. First is the village has a need for public parkland and recreation facilities, including improvement of existing recreation areas. I think we can all agree that the village does have a need for public parkland and recreational facilities. Is there any disagreement with that? Okay. This site adds new residential units and will thereby contribute to such a need. Is there any disagreement with that statement? Okay. Suitable parks or recreation areas of adequate size to meet this requirement cannot be located on the site. The reasoning is the present recreation code provides that a mandatory minimum area for public parkland set aside on a site is 1/2 acre. Andy, what is the size of this lot?
0.6 acres.
Therefore, if there is no way that they can put a 1/2 acre of recreational parkland on this site. If on-site parkland is allowed, it must be all the parkland required, and there be no partial parkland or recreation facilities that shall be credited toward the mandated reservation of land. Because a public recreation area of at least 1/2 acre cannot be accommodated on the site, which is a total of only 0.6 acres, recreation fees must be assessed in accordance with the Board of Trustees fee schedule, according to these 3 findings above. So the fee must be then paid to the village clerk prior to the signing of the site plan. So is there any disagreement on that? And if not, then we are going to refer this to the Board of Trustees with the notation that a recreation fee must be assessed.
Hey, John.
Yes.
My understanding is that it doesn't get referred to the Board of Trustees. It's that we have a fee schedule that the board had set, and so we use the square footage of the project to determine the fee. That's how I've done it for the last 2 projects that required recreation fees. They didn't have to go back to the village board. It was just
Right. It would just
a question of math.
according to that schedule. Yes, and that's how it will be done. But we don't do that here tonight. That's not.
Yeah, no.
We do.
I invoice them once the process is complete, and then we have to wait for them to pay it, and then you can sign the plan.
Correct. So, okay. So with that in mind, is there any discussion that needs to be Andy? Ronnie?
No, we looked into it. We were hoping for some kind of reduction due to the Empire State Trail going through, but the way the code is written really doesn't allow for it.
No, it doesn't. Okay, so then what we have found is that we can now If we're satisfied that all the issues above and the ones below have been addressed adequately, we can authorize the attorney to draft a resolution of approval for consideration at the next meeting. So the issues are the getting a written response of acceptance by the fire department. That's one condition. And let's see, the proposed access easement over the adjoining site to the south is shown, but does not contain meets and bounds. You're going to take care of that. Is that correct, Andy?
Yeah, that's actually all, it's all prepared. We just got to send it over to Rick and Ashley.
Okay. We've accepted the affordable housing plan. A resolution will also require the payment of a recreation fee in accordance with the village fee schedule. So a draft resolution will contain the following specific conditions. Trees, and these are all listed here. Trees and other landscaping must be maintained in a healthy and vibrant condition in perpetuity. Trees and other landscaping near the adjacent roadways must be maintained and pruned in such a fashion so as not to impede traffic site distances. Department of Transportation approval of access, whereby applicant must return to the planning board for amended site plan approval if the Department of Transportation approval is materially different from the planning board approved access. DOT approval of 7 on-street parking spaces, whereby if DOT eliminates any on-street parking space, the applicant must return to the planning board for approval of an alternative location to support the required parking count. Any word on that, Andy?
We submitted to the DOT and we're waiting on their review.
DOT approval of shared bike pedestrian trail within DOT right-of-way. Easement subject to the attorney approval as to form for a portion of the shared bike pedestrian trail on the applicant's property. Owner authorization from the adjoining site to the south cross easement for access with such property in form that is reviewed and approved by the attorney and filed with the county. Cash payment in lieu of land reservation, recreation fee prior to signing of plans in compliance with the Affordable Housing Act. I think we also were going to condition on receiving a written response from the fire department. So if
I do have a couple questions on
Yeah.
2 of those.
yes,
Number 5, I just want it to be understood that part of this project is the parking in the front, but the actual trail along the right of way is going to be done by others. And that's been on the plan for a while. Just to make that, I don't want that to hold it up, the wording of that, though.
Right. Alana, can you make a note about that, specifically the wording done by others?
Which one is that number?
5.
Number 5.
5.
DOT approval of portion of shared bike pedestrian trail within DOT right of way. Done by others.
And then number 9 should say 2 affordable housing units, not 3.
Yes, correct. My error there, sorry about that. Okay. Anything else that we need to have, or are those all the issues that were outstanding, members of the board?
I don't have any.
Well, with that in mind, I'm sorry, go ahead. With that in mind, then I would like to get a motion to authorize the village planning board attorney to draft a resolution of approval for consideration at our next meeting.
So motion.
Conditioned upon the receipt of any of these outstanding, conditioned on the outstanding items below. And you made the motion there, so move. So I need a second, please.
Second.
All in favor of authorizing our attorney to draft a resolution of approval for consideration at our next meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So the motion is passed, and we have authorized our attorney to draft a resolution of approval for consideration with the issues listed and the conditions that were listed below, and with the issue number 5, it being changed to by others, and then compliance with the Affordable Housing Act for 2 affordable housing units instead of 3. There you go. Any further questions from you guys?
Is the public hearing, I guess, is still open, or are you gonna?
No, the public hearing is not still open.
Oh, I missed that somehow.
So on the 7th, John, you could have the resolution?
Correct.
Great.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Okay, so that then moves us to PB 2115-27 Millbrook Road. An application for site approval to construct a new single-family residence on a 1.9 acre vacant parcel in the R1 zoning district. It's a type 2 action. Provided the property is an approved building lot, which Corey is going to be able to confirm. Referral to county is required. The property is within 500 feet of the town boundary and does not fall under the exemption for residential site plans, because an increase in parking is required by local statute. Also, because it is within 500 feet of the town boundary, notice of the public hearing must go to the town clerk electronically at least 10 days prior to the hearing. There will be a public hearing required, as noted above, and the notice must be sent to the town clerk. So who is representing PB 2115?
This is Floyd Niffen. I think Alex is here also. If you want, I can speak to this application.
Sure. Yeah, why don't you give us what you're trying to do, Floyd?
Okay. Basically, it's almost a carbon copy of the other 2 properties that we came in front of you for last year. We've basically incorporated all the comments and all the requirements from those projects to start off with on this one. So hopefully it's already incorporates everything that you guys want, or maybe there's some other items that you didn't think of last time. But like I said, everything that we did on the last 2 projects are included on this one, including the rain garden that we designed for the other 2 properties. Other than that, this is the 3rd and final lot of the 3-lot subdivision. It's located in between the 2 other lots that we were in front of you for last time. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay. Any questions from folks right now?
Oh, it looks good to me. We reviewed it last time and it looks like the architecture is going to be very similar to the other houses there.
Rachel wanted me to mention, she texted me before she left, that she did not want asphalt used for the driveway. So I just told her I would mention it and put it in the minutes.
Okay. Floyd, what's the opportunity of putting a permeable surface for the drive?
So I could certainly talk to Alex about that and see what our options are.
Okay.
The only issues that may occur is just the grade to get into the house can be a little steep and may cause some difficulty in the wintertime. So I can see what's available for that and talk to Alex before the next meeting.
Okay. Site plan shows a shared driveway. It's unclear if the shared driveway is existing or proposed. There needs to be a common driveway easement, shared maintenance agreement for the lots utilizing the shared driveway. We'll have to get that so that it can be reviewed by the board attorney and filed with the county clerk.
Yeah, that was when the subdivision was approved. That was drafted by the village planning board attorney at the time, and was filed with it, and has been filed subsequently with the sale of the properties. But I can include can include the one we used when the property sold to Alex.
If you would, please, that would be helpful. So we can have all of our points covered.
I had a question about the site plan. Can you tell me what the ring of O's that look kind of like a chain that's cutting across the property? What does that represent?
That's an existing stone wall that's there.
I see.
There's
And
quite a few of them. The entire boundary of the property has stone wall, and there's maybe 2 or 3 that bisect the property through it, and this is one of the 2.
right, and so the rain garden will be capturing runoff from the roof of the building. Is that all?
Yes.
And how will that? It seems like, based on the topo lines, it's above parts of the roof. How will the water run to the rain garden?
So where it's shown right now, it's even with the top elevation of the first floor. So it is below the roof. Getting some of the front gutters around to that may be challenging. So we might have to slide it a little downslope. But then it gets a little tricky with the well. I think we did push the well a little closer to the south. So I can look into whether that's needed or not. But it's below the roof, but it's equal with the floor elevation of the first floor.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Where it says FF 380, that's the first floor elevation at 380. And you can see if you follow the topos, the lowest topo there is 380. So you're right. It's probably should go a little bit more downslope.
Yeah, I just want to be really, really careful with this site because it's in such a environmentally important area.
Understood.
Any other questions?
Not for me.
Not for me.
So speak to me about the future hiking easement. Is the applicant looking to provide an easement for one of the trails that would cut across the back end of the land? Is that correct?
Yeah, that was an existing proposed future easement when the property was subdivided originally in order to potentially connect Dave Lent's property to the park to the north. He has a vacant lot just east of this, which I think would be the intended, it would be part of that as well in the future.
Okay. Any other questions by members of the board? Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get that information to the attorney, and then at our next meeting, if everything is good, we can probably set a public hearing. So the shared driveway, we discussed that. Easement agreement filed with the county clerk, approved by the planning board attorney. So you can get those to him, and we can get some information back. Then I don't see why we can't set a public hearing shortly after that. So,
John, are you okay with me referring this to the county planning board for their December meeting?
yeah, do we need to make a motion on that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we need a motion to refer this to county for their December, what, second meeting you said?
I think it's December 1st, actually, because it's the
December
first
1st.
Wednesday. Yeah, it's December 1st.
So a motion to refer this to county for the December 1st meeting.
So motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. So we're gonna wait to hear from Corey about type 2 action, provided the property is approved building lot. We've just referred it to county. Looks like we'll be able to set a public hearing if we get that information to Rick, and we have the information back from county. So yeah, that's kind of about all we can do at the moment.
Corey did actually, I don't know if you want it in writing, I can just have him put it in an email, but he did confirm to me verbally that this is a buildable lot. Because Ashley had asked me and I had asked him.
Right. Yeah, Corey needs to be putting these things in writing so we can have them as part of the record.
Okay.
I'm sure he'll do it. He's just we got to make sure he gets that done. So, all right.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions, Floyd?
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. All right. So we'll get all the information, and then we will see you at our next meeting and push forward.
Okay, thanks. That's December 1st, you said?
That's
December 1st is the county. The next planning board meeting is the 7th.
7th, okay. December.
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay. That brings us to our next one, which is PB 2116, 20 Millbrook Road. Application to construct a 24 by 10 inch ground level composite deck to the rear of an existing house.
I think you mean 24 foot by 10 foot there.
That would make more sense, wouldn't it? All right, so Mr. Ng, I believe, is that correct?
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be here though.
Okay.
But I mean, it's not a huge deal that he's not here necessarily for this one, unless you guys disagree, but.
No, this is a type 2 action. Doesn't appear there's going to be any referral to the county, let me read this. Referral part does not appear to be within 500 feet State County Road. Exempt from referral under the agreement with Elsa County Board of Exemption for site plans. So there we go. We have his information here, special use permit list, checklist. Everybody have the drawing?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We have his site visit consent form. There we go. Okay. All right, looks like all of his paperwork is in order. Okay, so really, probably a straightforward and application we're gonna see in a while. Any questions on this? Nope. Okay. All pretty straightforward. All right, so I guess the next thing we're gonna need to do then is to set a public hearing for this application. When can we set a public hearing for him, Alana?
December 7th.
And so we're gonna need to notify him of that. So I need a motion to set the public hearing for PB 2116 20 Mill Rock Road for December 7th.
So motion.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so if you will work with the applicant, let him know that he is set for a public hearing. Make sure the notices are out, and then we'll move forward. Like I said, this is probably as straightforward an application as we're gonna see. All right, so the next thing is a lot of referring back to the public comments. Any further public comments?
Nope.
Okay, so I would like a motion then to close the public comments.
So motion.
And a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now let's circle back real quickly to Mr. Olson's request, and we'll make this brief because it's 8:30. What he is asking for us to do, and Lana, you have, or you can go back and look at the recording of this. There were some specific comments that we made that we were looking for. If anyone please has any ideas regarding the establishment of the district, the extension of the district to include those areas, and does everyone have a copy of those areas that Mr. Olson was talking about?
I do.
Lana, can you just make sure that in the next day or two that we all have a copy of that, please?
Yeah, you should. You should. I think we sent
I
it
know
to.
I
Okay.
totally understand.
Okay.
But email boxes get quite full and sometimes we don't attend to them as we perhaps should. So if you could forward us a second copy, that way everybody will have the copy. And if you would please, by Wednesday, can we get all of the comments into Alana so that, Wednesday, that's tomorrow, actually. He wants it by Friday, right? So if by Thursday, you can have the comments to Alana. Alana, if you can just get a summary of the different comments that were made during that discussion, so that we can see that, that would be helpful. And then hopefully by end of business on Thursday, we can get this written up, send it to everyone to look at on Friday, and then hopefully Friday or Saturday morning, we can get that over to Mr. Olson. Does that sound like a timeline that's acceptable?
Fine with me.
Okay. Alana, does that sound like something that you can help us accomplish?
Yeah.
Good, good. All right, so that's what we're going to do, and that way he will have that information quickly. So thank you, everybody, for attending and for being attentive while here. The next thing that we will need is I would need
So motion.
motion to adjourn. Thank you, Dennis, for jumping the gun. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks to everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.